In this lesson, we'll look at the process of receiving the products that vendors send you in response to orders you have placed. When you receive a shipment of products, you must record what you receive and the quantity of each item, so that your inventory records can be updated. Ideally, each shipment you receive would match exactly with an order you placed. But in the real world, you will probably receive partial shipments, shipments from more than one order, and products that were not ordered. Dragonfly can handle all those situations. Begin the receiving process by selecting the vendor that shipped the products. Each receiving record can only contain products from a single vendor. If you have started a receipt and saved it without finalizing it, you can select that receipt from the Open Receipts dropdown. The receipt will be loaded in its last saved state so you can continue working on it. But let's take a look at starting a new receipt. Every item you received can be logged against the invoice number that the vendor assigned to the shipment. Before you begin scanning in received items, we suggest that you add the vendor's invoice number in the invoice number field. Then when you scan in an item, it will automatically be assigned to that invoice. If you are working with multiple invoices, you can change the invoice number at any time, and any products added after that will get the new invoice number. If you don't enter an invoice number, the system will prompt you for one when the first product is scanned, but won't prompt you again. Continue by scanning in items as you unpack them from the shipment. Each time you scan a product to be added, the product will be added to the received items list. If you are not using a scanner, you can start typing the product identifier into the fast search field until you find the received product. This identifier could be the product's receipt description, vendor part number, or product SKU. If you scan in a product that has not been ordered, the item will appear as a pink row in the list, to bring it to your attention. When you scan or search for an item, the system will only look at products that have been registered for the selected vendor. If you receive a product that has not been registered to the vendor, you will not find it in the search results. You can go to the products form and add the vendor to the product definition, or go to the vendor products form and add the product to the vendor. Each time you scan in a product or find it by searching, the item will be added to the received items list with the quantity set to 1. When the item is added, the keyboard focus will automatically shift to the received quantity cell for that item, so you can directly type in a quantity. If the item is already on the list because the same item was scanned earlier, the quantity field will be increased by 1. If a shipment contains multiples of a product, you can scan each product individually, or scan the first one and set the total quantity. To quickly set the received quantity to the ordered quantity, double-click in the received quantity cell. To help you see your progress as you scan in products, the grid will color-code the received quantity cells. If the received quantity value matches the ordered quantity, the cell will be green. If the received quantity is lower than the ordered quantity, the received quantity cell will be highlighted in pink. If the received quantity is higher than the ordered quantity, the received quantity cell will be highlighted in yellow. By default, the received items list starts out blank, with items added as you scan them. But if you like, you can start with a list of ordered items by selecting one of the vendor's open orders from the Show Open Order dropdown. This will add all the items from the selected order into the received items list. The Order Quantity to Go column shows how many of the ordered items have not yet been received. The Received Quantity column will be set to 0 for each product. This column is where you record the quantity in the shipment being processed. By default, the products with 0 in the To Go column are hidden. If you want to show the products that have been fully received, uncheck the box labeled Hide Complete Items. If the received shipment contains items from multiple orders, you can add additional orders to the receipt. Starting with an existing order gives you a better idea of how complete the shipment is. Once the list has been populated, you can search the list for each item as you unpack it and enter the quantity received. Alternatively, you can scan in the items and the system will find the item on the list and update the quantity for you. As you define the order receipt, click Save at any time to save your progress. This saves what you have entered but does not update the inventory yet. When you have completed recording the received items and their quantities, click the Finalize button to complete the receipt. The finalizing process starts with a few validations. First, it looks for items on the list with the received quantity set to 0. This happens if you accidentally miss entering a value, or if you preloaded an open order and the item was not included in the shipment. You will be prompted if any zero quantity items are found and given the choice of continuing or going back to enter or check the numbers. If an item has a received quantity of 0, it will not be saved as part of the receipt. One way to avoid this warning is to remove items with 0 quantity before finalizing. If you click on the heading of the received quantity field, it will sort the list by received quantity, bringing all the 0 quantity items to the top of the list. If the received product has been designated as a serialized item, you must provide a serial number for each item you received. Use the serial numbers field for entering in the numbers, one number per line. If the serial number count does not match the received quantity, this must be corrected before the receipt can be finalized. Finally, you must enter a cost for every product that is received. By default, this cost is set to the cost recorded for the item in the vendor products registry. But if the recorded cost is 0, a valid cost must be entered. The receipt cannot be finalized until every item has an entered cost. This ensures that the value of the store's inventory is kept up to date. By default, the Update Cost checkbox will be checked for each item, indicating that the cost in the vendor product registry will be updated with the entered value. If you prefer to keep the current cost as is, rather than using the cost from the incoming shipment, uncheck this box. Once the receipt is finalized, the store inventory will be updated to reflect the received quantities. The receipt will no longer be editable at this point. There will be times when a received shipment does not include everything that was in the order sent to the vendor. If the vendor supports back orders, this won't cause a problem. The undelivered items will remain as open orders in the system and can be received in a subsequent shipment. But if the vendor does not support back orders, this causes a minor problem, as the vendor will consider the order to be closed. If this occurs, a warning will appear, giving you two options. The first is to update the original order, removing the undelivered items. The second option is to create a new draft order for the vendor, including all the items that were not delivered. If you want to print labels for the received products, select the products that need labels and click the Print Selected Labels button. If all the items on the list need labels, you can just click the Print All Labels button. The product definitions show the number of labels normally required for each product, and these numbers are displayed in the Label Count field. If you want a different number of labels for any of the products, be sure to update this number before clicking the Print button. Watch the setup session on designing labels for information on how to design product labels. Finally, there are a few more fields that allow you to capture additional information about the receipt. These include the receipt date, the shipping charges, and a general notes field. The receipt date is required, but the other two are optional.